Well, it's a new dawn in Senegal, and the rest of Africa shares in the euphoria as President Bola Tinubu departed Abuja for Dakar to partake in the country's inauguration of President Bassirou Diomaye Faye. President Tinubu, who is the chairman of ECOWAS Authority of Heads of State and Government, joined other regional leaders to witness the inauguration at the Diamniadio Exhibition Centre in Dakar. Let's take some comments from Usman Sonko, who facilitated the emergence of President Diomaye by directing his supporters to vote for him after he was adjudged ineligible to contest the presidency. And this reflects the new thinking by young Francophone politicians.
It is high time for France to lift its knee off our neck and put an end to this unjust oppression. Centuries of misery, human trafficking, colonization, and neocolonization have caused immeasurable suffering. It's time to put an end to this cycle of oppression. It's high time for France to leave us alone. It's time for France to take a cue from its European neighbors and learn a valuable lesson in independence. Germany is the leading economic power in Europe, significantly surpassing France, which is ranked as the third or fourth largest economic power globally. Germany does not exploit any country, any colony. I can mention Italy, I can mention Spain, who had colonies before, but who do not exploit anyone, who do not interfere, who do not impose leaders in their former colonies. On what grounds does France believe it can continue to impose leaders on us and make choices on our behalf? This must come to an end. And the emerging Africa, the African youth, the African elites, and the African diaspora all stand united in saying no, it cannot continue any longer. France's hypocrisy is evident and pervasive in daily life. Let's examine the cases of Mali and Chad as prime examples of this hypocrisy. In Chad, where the constitutional process has been interrupted, France applauded and its president visited to officially consecrate the new king's coronation ceremony. In Mali, where it is not the constitutional process that has been interrupted, but the transition process, France has condemned and even packed up its things to say that it is leaving Mali. That's hypocrisy. It's the double standard. It is the double language that France employs in its dealings with Africa. During our questioning of Mr. Jean-Yves Le Drian regarding the situation in Ivory Coast and France's decision to allow a third term, he provided a clear explanation. He stated that while he accepted the third term for Ouattara, he refuses it for Belarus. He emphasized that France has condemned the situation in Belarus and has actively encouraged the European Union to do the same. Le Drian explains that in Belarus, millions protested, unlike Ivory Coast, where there were no mass demonstrations on the streets. This is how France deals with African issues. Personally, we expect absolutely nothing from France. We desire her to cease meddling in our matters so that the people of Senegal can exercise their freedom of choice rather than being influenced by France's selection of a candidate using the tactics we are aware of. We begin by targeting individuals, adorning them with the Legion of Honor or a similar knightly rank, enlisting them in Masonic lodges, and informing them to prepare themselves as they will be next in line. Even the hypothesis that Macky Sall may not succeed, we know who is being prepared by France. This must come to an end. It will not occur in this manner any longer. Let's be clear. We have absolutely nothing against the French people. In France, both political and citizen voices are rising to hold and express the same discourse as the one I am currently presenting to you. For example, the deputies, such as Mrs. Frédérique Dumas, who regularly speaks on the platform of the Assembly, who regularly writes to the Minister of Foreign Affairs, since she is a member of the Foreign Affairs Committee, to raise this unfair behavior of France towards Africa, hold the same speech as us. The same Mr. Jean-Luc Mélenchon, Jean-Paul Lecoq, André Chassaigne, all deputies, hold the same discourse as us, and hundreds of other voices. The NGO endures. like other non-profit organizations, are doing remarkable work in the same direction. We strongly urge France to listen to the voices that speak to it about our plan for a more collaborative, fairer, and sustainable partnership between Africa and France. It is crucial that we work together towards a future that is equitable, just, and environmentally conscious. If she listens, I believe we'll have beautiful days ahead in our collaboration together. If he doesn't know how to cut it, thinking he can continue to function like in the time of our grandfathers, this African youth no longer accepts it. France must make preparations for a definitive break and completely withdraw from Africa. Africa belongs to Africans, not France. She belongs to no one else, neither China, nor the United States, nor anyone else.
Indeed, Africa belongs to Africans. BKO, so much vibrancy we could hear from the voice of Ousmane Sonko, who facilitated, we understand, the emergence of President Diomaye as the president of Senegal. But first off, what do you make of this passion we see in the minds of these young politicians and your expectations?
It's increasingly obvious that France's attitudes of treating Francophone countries like its vassal states has to end. You can see they are being resisted in different countries now, and I believe that that resistance will continue. People will get up against France and tell France that they are tired of its interventions in the affairs of our continent. There are so many French-speaking African countries where France continues to lord it over them, where France continues to influence the way those countries are run and influences the emergence of their leaders. France will turn its eyes away from evil in those African countries as long as it aligns with their interests. So this is what we are saying. And Sonko reminds me of the great Patrice Lumumba, you know, who said neither brutal assaults, nor cruel mistreatment, nor torture has ever led me to beg for mercy. For I prefer to die with my head held high in unshakable faith and in the greatest destiny of my nation than die in abject nothingness. Abject nothingness. When the man talks in this manner, it's clear what he's saying. He said he would prefer not to die. He would prefer to die with his head held high and not just die like an ordinary person. So at the end of the day, Lumumba was murdered because of the belief that he held on to, or the beliefs that he held on to. We are seeing now some African young politicians standing up. The new Lumumbas are coming on the scene. I'm impressed with Sonko, and Sonko delivered victory for Diomaye. Diomaye got 54% of the votes. It means that if Sonko had been allowed to run, if not for the legal obstacles that he faced, he would have won the election easily. So it's a new dawn. I hope that Diomaye will deliver. He has promised to pursue left-wing ideals. He has promised to fight corruption. And he has also promised to bring countries like Niger Republic and Mali back into the West African bloc, ECOWAS, so that they can continue to collaborate. And to that extent, I'm sure the President, Tinubu, will be happy with him because it's helping him to unite the sub-regional body that he heads at this time. So kudos to Sonko and to Diomaye.
Right. GKB, from your position now, we see definitely it's a new dawn in Senegal. What are your expectations? Let me start with that. What are your expectations of this new government, seeing that there is this desire to see Africa birth itself as its own nation. It has its own people, devoid of interference from other international groups or countries or bodies?
Well, two things really. The first one, of course, is the fact that this is coming almost 50 years after the fact.
Right.
After the Second World War, a lot of European powers had to let go of their colonies. One, because they could no longer sustain them, because they are in deep debt. Two, because most of the people that went to war saw that the colonialists are no different from themselves. They go to the toilet like everybody else. They cry when they beat them like everybody else. And that led to the emancipation of mostly Portuguese and English-speaking countries. But France thought it was very smart. And then introduced what they call the assimilation, the act of saying that there's no colony, that they're all Frenchmen and Frenchwomen. But what they did not tell them is the fact that the African franc, the money they spend, is 1/10 of the value of the French franc. And it's tied to the point to this point that they can no longer even do anything outside the money. Because what they do is this: whatever you sell, they convert into French francs. When they now pay you, they take away money, they help you to print your own money. They take away percentage for what they call inflation. At the end of the day, the value they are looking at, that's okay, this is 10-1. What you get paid will be around 25-1. So Mali and Niger has shown that giving quality leadership, Francophone African countries can win themselves away from France, seriously. And Senegal being the crown jewel of France in Africa, as well as Cote d'Ivoire, the main signal points that people are looking forward to lead that revolution of taking back Africa from France.
And in taking back Africa, GKB, let me stay with you on this. What would you propose as modalities that these African countries can adopt so that we can accept that we are living our dream, if I would use that language, so it not look like we're going back to the same way we're coming from? What are those modalities you would prefer?
Let them take back their currency. Let them win themselves away from the French francs. That's the first step. Because without controlling your currency, you are still tied to France. They can always sabotage your monetary policies because your monies are still kept with them in the back of France. So things of value are still there. Most black Africans who speak French as a first language have ties to France. Some of them are married to French women. In fact, that was the pattern in the 60s. Whoever they see is going to become a leader, they just get him a white French lady. So that way, it's not only tied down physically, it's tied down mentally. But the young ones coming out don't really think for that. So the first thing they need to do, not only Senegal, but even Cote d'Ivoire, Guinea, Mali, Niger, all of them, is to remove themselves from the franc union and form their own individual currencies, tied to the gold bar, or tied to the dollar if they want. Or they can even tie it to the euro, but take it away from France. It's going to be tough for at least a decade. But by then, you will enjoy what Nigeria is enjoying now. Ability to float our currency, ability to defend it.
Absolutely. BKO, your final thoughts as we understand that the president also attended the inauguration of President Diomaye. What are your expectations and what do you think this will mean for the African continent? And
what I said earlier, it's strategic for the president to be there. This is a president that has promised to do his best to bring back those countries that have left the West African Union. So it means that the integration of the sub-region that we've always wanted to have, we now have a champion in Diomaye, which will help Asiwaju Bola Tinubu in welding the group together, getting everybody to sing from the same hymnal. So that is significant. The other problems they will be able to address as time goes on. So Asiwaju has a champion in this young man. He has a supporter in this young man, and I can see why the president had to attend this ceremony. It's important that France leaves these countries alone. You know, it's important. The attitude of France has to change. And now France is being confronted. They shouldn't wait until there is bloodshed before they adjust their century-long policy of exploiting the resources of French-speaking African countries.
Right.